People of Reddit, what are your worst dating stories? I met a guy who said he wanted to make me dinner. 19-yo me thought this was a sweet idea. When we got to his house I had to pee. I used his bathroom, and when I came out he was naked on the couch and said, "Dinner's served." I told him I wasn't hungry anymore and left. Went to a restaurant with a guy I met online. He seemed like a really good guy, and we actually hit it off really well. We were sharing a dessert and having a nice time until his fiancée came over and dumped a drink all over him. She started screaming about how she loved him and how she couldn't believe he'd gone behind her back. She was out to dinner with her mother at the same restaurant. Apparently their plans had changed and he had no clue she would even be in town. He left me at the table, running out after her and her mother, who was screaming profanities at me from across the restaurant. I was nearly in tears trying to explain to the waiter and really anyone who would listen, they had made quite a scene, that I had no idea that he was engaged. And then, because he had left, I got stuck with the bill. Twist, after the whole incident, he tried to go out with me again. He claimed they had broken up. I managed to find him on Facebook and learned that they were still together, so I sent her a message with a screenshot of the text where he had asked me out again. I told her I was really sorry that she was dating such a scumbag and that she could do better. So she and I ended up talking, and now we've actually become casual friends and go out to lunch on occasion. And he's still a scumbag with an active occupant. Did something similar. Second date, met her at the restaurant and didn't realize I'd left my wallet at home. She says the only reason she agreed to a third date was that I made multiple offers to drive home, about a 30-minute round trip, to get it. Edit, FML, okay, see if I can put an update in right this time. For those of you saying she was a money-grubbing bitch, I invited her out to lunch. No expectation of her paying. Why not leave your phone? Never got to the point where the restaurant found out about it. When I arrived, I realized I didn't have my wallet with me. Explained to her that I could drive home to get it if she didn't mind waiting for me to get back. She offered to pay at that point. It was later I found out about guys asking her out in the past, then waiting until the bill arrives and saying "you got this," right, or asking her to split the check. Were there other dates? Yep, we dated for about a month when she called me at 11 p.m. one night freaking out. She lived in a second-floor apartment and her cat had gone out on her balcony, then gone to the neighbor's balcony. Neighbor was in the Navy and wasn't around, and the damn cat wouldn't come back over to her. Drove the half hour to her apartment, pulled a Spider-Man routine by going over the balcony railing, then climbing onto the neighbor's balcony, caught the cat, passed it over to her. Climbed back, then headed home. She later told me she knew I was a keeper at that point. We were married in October of the next year and will be celebrating our 11th anniversary this year. I went out with this guy and we ordered the exact same drink. He somehow got shit-faced while I remained sober. I guess he didn't drink that much. Anyways, he started acting completely obnoxious, being way too affectionate towards me, trying to kiss me on the cheek and putting his hand on my thigh. I got up to go to the bathroom and he said, "Wait, I have to tell you a secret first." He leaned in like he was going to whisper something to me and then he licked my ear. I left. He followed me to the train and kept begging for a goodnight kiss. He still comes into my work all the time, and when my boss sees him walk in, she actually lets me leave and go to the McDonald's next door until he leaves. I once went on a first date with a chick and ended up having dinner with her mom and autistic brother after helping her mom move crap around their house. And I was asked by her mom to spend the night, at which point I was expected to have relations with the daughter. Edit, okay, here goes. So I met this chick online. My car was having trouble, so this particular night, she was my ride. She picked me up and we went to a mall. She seemed really cool and we were hitting things off. Went to the Sparrows at the food court and got a bit of lunch. We're sitting there eating and all of a sudden, she says, completely out of the blue, "My ex beat me." I was in mid-bite. So I had that little moment where I stop chewing for a moment and then start chewing again really slowly because I have committed to the bite. I'm sorry, that sucks. Yeah, we just broke up a week ago. God damn it. So I'm a rebound. Great. I did feel bad for her though. But then she talked. And talked. And talked about nothing but a relationship with him. I'm thinking, this is a really shitty date. She tells a story about how she told him she was going on a date with me and he grabbed her arm and yelled at her. I'm already thinking, what the hell have I gotten myself into? So I'm already kind of wanting out, but she was my ride. So we see this movie and then she wants to walk around the mall. Hey, let's go into hot topic. I love this store. Sigh. While we're in there, she just lunges at me and kisses me. Okay, getting really weird now. After the mall, I'm like, okay, well I had a really good time. Me too. You're so great. I can't wait for my family to meet you. I'm thinking, okay, I can get into why that's not going to happen a bit later, once I'm safe and away from the crazy woman, but for now, I'll smile and nod. Then she gets on a highway I never get on. Where are we going? To my house, duh. Apparently, she meant I can't wait until you meet my family right fucking now. At this point, I almost want to call a friend for a ride, but my friends would just love the fact that I'm in this situation and let me rot anyway, so I stick it out. I figure, okay, a couple hours and she'll take me home. Nope. We get to her house, and immediately, her mom asks me to help move a pile of 6 or 7 heavy boxes out to the shed in the backyard. I'm too polite to say no, though I wish I wasn't in this situation, so I do it. I come back in, covered in sweat, it was August, muscles aching, and she says thanks sweetheart. The girl's brother walks into the room, and she introduces me. Hey, this is my brother, Terrence. He's really autistic, so don't pay any attention to him. What do you mean, don't pay any attention to him? Well, everything he says is weird, so you just take it with a grain of salt. I really felt bad for the kid. He was interesting. Showed me his pet lizard and pet tarantula. I hate spiders, but I figured I would humor him, because if his sister is always like that, it would help to act interested. He changed subjects all over the place and was really hard for me to follow, but he eventually left to go do something else. So about an hour passes of me watching TV with the girl, and then she says, "So are you ready to go eat?" Damn it. I want to go home. But going out one more time will put us in a vehicle, so I'll get home. We get ready to leave for Chili's, and her mom walks into the living room with her purse. So where we going? I laughed. Seriously, I thought she was joking, because what mom would just invite herself to dinner on her 23-year-old daughter's first date with a guy? She looked at me weird, and then back to her daughter. Chili's? Is Terrence ready? What, so you fucking knew? I'm smiling, but in my head, I'm thinking, why the fuck is this normal to all of you? So we go to Chili's, and I feel like I'm the big brother in the family. Constant bickering between the brother and sister, her egging him on, making fun of him for being autistic, and the mom only jumping in when they started kicking each other under the table. After about an hour, we leave. Get back to their house, and it's about 10 p.m. I figured we were dropping off the mom and brother so she could take me home. So, you about to take me home? The mom jumps in. No, she's not allowed to drive after dark. You'll have to spend the night. It's okay, though. Her bed's a queen, and I don't care what you guys do in there. I'm not the smothering type, hahaha. Lying bitch. You have been part of half of this date. That's what I was thinking. I was ready to call a friend because I was seriously about to panic. Not that I feared for my safety, but I was just a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10 of uncomfortability. I pull out my phone, it's dead. Holy balls, my phone is dead. Why is it dead? Oh yeah, I've been on a 10-hour date. So I have to just deal with this. We go back into her room and watch TV. She keeps putting moves on me, moves that were honestly incredibly hard to resist. I end up pretending to fall asleep, and she falls asleep. I turn the TV on and watch Comedy Central until the infomercials start, and then I get up. It's way too uncomfortable for me to sleep in this situation. So I go into the living room, and no one's there. I start digging through their drawers and shit, looking for a charger that fit. There's only a USB one, so I had to turn on their computer to charge my phone. I call a friend, it's about 3 a.m. at this point, so no one's going to pick me up, but I just needed to rant and talk to her for a couple of hours about my night. At about 5 a.m., the girl comes out of her room and is like, "Baby, is everything okay?" "Yep." "You coming to bed?" "Not for a while. Thank you though." I eventually fall asleep on the couch a bit later. The next morning, she wants to watch like 3 hours of the Disney Channel and is finally willing to take me home at 1 p.m. I say no words the entire way home. I wanted to just go off on her, but I sensed a lot of crazy in that family, so this was one of those situations where I found it okay to just never answer the phone calls or texts again. She ends up convincing a friend to contact me on the dating site, but not to tell me she knew her. After we finally swapped numbers, she calls me, and I hear the chick in the background now ask him why he won't talk to me. I hung up deleted my profile on that site, and took a bath in battery acid. Never again. I got trapped on a date once too. I met her on Occupid, she looked really cool, dyed short hair, fashion photographer, older than me, 30 to my 20, we sent some messages and have a first date without red flags. She seems to have the attention span of a goldfish and tells me she has chronic Lyme disease. Second date, I get invited to her house to watch a documentary about Lyme disease. Lots of things happen, it turns out that she is actually a red flags wholesaler and I'm on the warehouse tour. When I try to leave at midnight, she has a panic attack and somehow guilt trips me into staying. I agree to stay, hoping the night will come to a natural ending. It doesn't. And when I try to leave again, another panic attack. She abuses some painkillers in front of me and then tries to give me trinkets for about an hour. A couple other shitty things happen, and then I manage to leave the house around noon the next day, another panic attack, but this time I was determined, and drive home. I had gotten about 20 minutes of sleep total. Started crying while driving and had to pull over into a park to call some friends who talked me through it. I can go into more detail if people are interested. The moral of the story is, have an escape route from dates and use it if you stop having fun. If I'd have had to wait on her to drive me home, that would have been fucking terrible. Met a guy online. A little older than I would have liked, but I didn't think anything of it. I figured, hey, it's just coffee, if anything goes badly I always have a bail. I get there, and the dude is a Guido. An older Guido. Fake tan that makes him look like a leather-wrapped mummy, balding, bling, shirt open to show off chest hair, the works. Alright, I think it would be rude to stand him up, it's just coffee, and then I can bail. Guy has a child he's never mentioned, keeps insisting on buying me more coffee drinks, watched those like a hawk, but he never slipped anything into them, goes on about how he's retired, he said he was employed full-time, and how he wants 10 more children, WTF. I start hedging out of there, claiming I need to go meet a friend somewhere to help them with something. At this point I was about to claim my cat was on fire to escape when he grabs my arm and tries to convince me to go home with him. I dropped his arm on the table fairly hard, apologized when he let go in pain, and then dashed. That was the creepiest asshole I ever met. Thankfully I gave him a Google number, not my real number, so I just disabled that number and never heard from him again. So I met this guy at a party for a friend of a friend. I'm pretty shy, so I ended up kind of hanging out in a corner by myself and met a guy who was also a friend of the host. He was pretty cute and funny, so we spent most of the night talking and the subsequent few days texting and calling each other on and off. Finally, he invited me out on a date to go horseback riding. Cool, I love horses. I'm down. We live in a bigger city, so we have to drive for about 1.5 hours to get to the place where he boards his horses. On the way there we chat and generally bullshit until we're about 15 minutes away, then he gets really quiet. I take this as him getting tired of driving and just enjoy the music and scenery. We get to the place and he literally hops out of the truck before he even puts it in park and runs towards the stable calling his horse's name. I put the car in park thinking that it's been forever since he's seen her and he really loves his horse. I follow him to where he goes and he's in the stable feeding her carrots and lovingly stroking her nose. He gives me a carrot and shows me how to hold my hand to feed her and instructs me to give her a carrot. The horse eyeballs me, turns her head and walks away. Whatever. Worse. He loans me a horse to ride and we go on a mini ride and picnic. Anytime he got close enough to touch me or hold my hand his horse would mysteriously veer away from me. After we're done we pile into the truck and make the drive home. About 1.5 miles from my exit, he asked me what I thought of his horse. I said she was cool and I thought she was beautiful. Then he dropped a bomb on me. He said he was having sex with his horse and that they were in love. The only reason he was dating was because he knew he was going to die before her. He told me that if we were to date, that I was not to make him choose because he would always choose her first and that she was his priority. In other words, I would be second fiddle to a horse. I've had some pretty awful dates, but if I ever top that one I'm joining a convent. Posted before, but was late to the party. A year after the loss of my last hit by a drunk driver, I decided it was time for me to try to start dating again. I met a girl on Occupid and from our long conversations over instant messenger, I felt that we had clicked well enough to meet in person. Like many others here that have done online dating, my partner only had a couple of images on her profile that were angled, so you really couldn't figure out her body type. Since I was a broke college student, we were just going to go window shopping at the mall. I'm sitting outside Hot Topic and these two very large women approach me. The larger of the two kind of looks like the girl I was supposed to be on a date with. It turns out the pics online were from 2 years ago, and she became much bigger than imagined. She had brought her friend along as backup. I figured her friend would go do other things while we hung around. Nope. She would follow us all evening, staying within a 10-foot radius. Now, this friend would not shut up about how much she loved Twilight and how she was on team something or other. I didn't give a shit, and I just wanted to talk with this girl I thought I'd hit it off with. Eventually, we were outside, and they were smoking. I have weak lungs, and I told her this before we met in person, so I was making sure the wind was blowing away from me. Her friend says that, because I don't smoke, I wasn't cool, and that the girl should just cut her losses. As we're going back inside, I pulled the girl to the side and asked her why her friend came along. Her response was, "Oh, she's the high priestess of my vampire coven, and she wanted to see if you would make a good recruit." I turned and walked away. TLDR have a date who brings her high priestess vampire friend to convert me and join her coven. Edit, formatting. Edit 2. I'm actually female, and I did eventually find a wonderful girlfriend who isn't a vampire witch creature thing. Our meeting story was not quite as crazy as this one. Yeah, we went out to a nice restaurant that she liked. Second date, we had a nice dinner, and everything was good. Check came, I paid with my debit card. It was declined. Apparently, there was an issue with my direct deposit, and a fair amount of money didn't get into my bank which had no noticed. Okay, here's my credit card that I carry just in case. Where's my credit card? I had just went on a trip and cleaned out my wallet, credit card sitting on desk at home. Checkbook? That's at home too. Cash? Who the hell carries cash? After sheepishly explaining the situation and promising to pay her back ASAP, she paid. Walked out to the car and found no car. After calling around, discovered the car was towed. Towing company was overly aggressive and towed my car when they shouldn't have. Took a cab to the towing yard. No money, she had to pay for cab. Got into argument with ignorant tow truck guys who refused to release my car, even though it was parked properly, and we had restaurant receipts to prove it, etc. $125. She had to pay. Worst date ever for me. Interesting post-date tidbits. She was a trooper, and we're married now, lol. I always now carry 3 ways to pay, that just isn't happening again. We ended up buying a house in the town, where the tow truck company is. The tow truck company mysteriously burned down one night. I had nothing to do with that, but I could definitely see someone torching that place, though my theory is they burned it down for insurance money. A few more post-date tidbits I forgot. Cab drove us right by the house we ended up buying when we moved into that town, though we didn't know it at the time. A couple weeks after my car got towed, the mall building got rid of the towing company and opened the whole thing up due to all of the false towings happening. Worst date I ever had was actually like my first date ever. It was super awkward asking her out, but I told her I'd never asked a girl out before. We made the plans together, and we were meeting up for lunch at a burger place. I pay for the meal, we sit down, and I begin to eat my food. She barely eats anything, telling me she ate beforehand. You know, because when you're meeting someone for lunch you don't want to sit there eating with them. She then talks about her job at Starbucks and how she spits in drinks and gives rude people who ask for deck of regular caffeinated coffee. Other gross things like picking her nose and putting it in the food and just bleck. I was not laughing or in any way acting interested in this topic. She also decides to remind me, we will not be having sex. This is my first date with a girl ever. I told her this, she knows this. Yet, she felt the need to say this. As if somehow I was giving her the signals that I needed to do her right then and there at this burger place. She checks her phone multiple times, texts people, and seems to be having a more interesting conversation with someone else. She goes on about how ugly and fat she is. Which she wasn't. I know some women do tend to have self-esteem issues. I now know though, she did this in excess for a date. I tried to tell her different, but I think she honestly lost respect me for me because I found her attractive. She talks about how badly she wants to date some celebrity, who, we'll say Michael Cera for the hell of it. How cute is, how she wants to marry him. I'm just basically feeling like I'm not in any way talking to a real person. Like, this seemed like the plot of a Kate Hudson movie or something. I was pretty well convinced this was not going to work. So, the date ends, and it actually was pretty short. I think it was only an hour or so, but it felt like so much longer. After that, she was still texting me and trying to go out with me, but I just couldn't. This date only feels worse and worse each time I think of it. As being my first date, I didn't think how bad it was till I went on more. Then I realized what a horrible date she was being. A classmate set me up with her sister. I saw a picture. She was a really hot blonde girl. We decided to meet for coffee. She showed up in full skinhead girl regalia and I figured she was a traditional or rude girl kind of skinhead girl. 10 minutes into our conversation she told me, "I'm really glad you're white. From your picture I thought you might be part beaner or something." I put down $2 for my coffee, said fuck you, and left. Her sister, my classmate, went out of her way to avoid me the following week, but then later apologized. She said she had no idea that her sister was that fucked up.